head of the scientific publication office at King Faisal Specialist Hospital and Research Center, and she's senior supervisor in Annals of Saudi Medicine, Hematology, Oncology, and Stem Cell Therapy Journal and International Journal of Pediatric and Adolescent Medicine. She's also worked as an invited lecturer at King Saud University and Princess Noura bint Abdulrahman University. She has MBA, master degree in business and administration from Al Faisal University, and she has diploma from Majma University in general education, and she did her bachelor degree from Princess Noura bint Abdulrahman University in English language and literature. She has more than 15 publications and different. She did abstract presentation in different national and regional conference. And as I said, she's a senior supervisor editor at the 3 journals. Welcome, Ms. Amal. And hopefully...
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for accepting our invitation. Today, Ms. Al-Ghammas, thank you. She will talk about principle of manuscript writing in the first hour, and in the second hour, she will talk about general journal selection and how to avoid predatory journals. Few housekeeping. After every hour, after every lecture will take around 10 minutes. So in the last 10 minutes from first lecture, we'll take a few questions. You can add your question in the Q&A section, or if you want to speak out, you can raise your hand and we will unmute you so you can answer your question by voice. So without further ado, the screen is for you, Dr. Ms. Al-Ghammas. And thank you again for accepting our invitation. You can share your screen.
Anytime, it's my pleasure. Let me share my screen. All right, can you see my screen? Let me just minimize this.
Yeah, great. We can see it.
Perfect. First of all, I'd like to thank Imam University for their invitation. Dr. Hassan has been a great communicator with me, Dr. Yusuf, and all the organizer. It's a great pleasure to be here. And I know it's a Saturday before Eid holiday, so I really appreciate taking the time of your schedule to join us in today's sessions. I hope you found both of them in value. So let's get starting. So hold on a second, let me click. Okay, so the Scientific Publications Office of King Faisal Specialist Hospital and Research Center publishes 3 medical journals, Annals of Saudi Medicine. It was established in 1981, and it focuses on topics in general medicine. The second journal is Hematology, Oncology, and Stem Cell Therapy, and this journal is more of a specialized in the field of hematology and oncology. We published in cooperation with Elsevier. The last journal is our youngest journal, is the International Journal of Pediatrics. Actually, the cover of the journal is drawings of kids, of patients. So this was actually drawn by a child who was a patient at King Faisal Hospital. And it's also published with Elsevier, cooperation with Elsevier. All 3 journals are indexed in international databases. So we're indexed in PubMed, PubMed Central, Embase, Science Direct. We are a member of Committee on Publication Ethics, Clarivate Analytics, which is the impact factor. Now they are the owner of it, and director of Open Access Journals. So this is just an overview about our publications office. Now let's start with the first step, which is the research process. The research process consists of 5 steps. The first one is to have a problem. So you formulate a problem, and then you ask the questions that you would like to prove. And then you choose the research design. What is the research design like? Is it a systematic review, case report, and so on? And then you're going to start with the data collection. And after that is data analysis. Now, why do we do that? So why do we take the time out of our hectic schedule and write a research that will take us between let's say 1 month is a very optimistic. That's if you're planning to write a letter. But let's say original articles between 6 months up to a year, because you're going to collect the data, you're going to ask for ORA approval, Office of Research. So they'll give you access to the data of a hospital or university. We actually conduct a research for several reasons. The first one is your interest as a physician or a doctor to write about, let's say, one field or a topic. And then you would like to provide an evidence. Of course, a lot of people here do that for promotions, steps, increase, or even bonuses. Because I know universities, if you, let's say, publish an article, you're going to get promoted or get steps or a bonus for that. Another thing is to promote your institution, to promote the brand of your institution, either King Faisal, Imam University, any other hospital or institution. Of course, advanced medical sciences, if you're reporting something new that hasn't been reported in the literature, to be published, to have more publication, or expected in academia, like any academic facilitator or physicians are expected to publish, and you're just doing that to follow the leads of others. So these are obvious reasons to publish or to conduct a research. Now, remember a very important element, that good writing will save bad ideas, but bad writings can kill good ideas, or good ones. So if you are, of course, English is not our first language, so we are not, when we write a manuscript, it has to be edited by a first native speaker of the English language to just go over it, proofread it, copy edit it. So make sure to involve a copy editor in the process when you write your manuscript. Let's now talk about manuscript preparation. Okay, so what is the first step? What do we do? All right, I want you all to visit the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. They are a society. They are preparing forms for article publications. So for example, if you're planning to publish an article in a journal, of course, the first thing that they're going to ask for is a cover letter, a conflict of interest statement. So the good thing about this website, International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, you can download the conflict of interest as a form, as you can see from here, and it's 3 pages. And you can fill out the information. And this form is interactive. So whenever you fill out an information, it will have let's say sub elements, and you can fill it out as well. So they're going to shed light on general information, intellectual property rights, relationship not covered above. First, as you can see here, you give your name. Are you the corresponding author? If you said yes, and then they will ask you for the co-authors to fill it out. The work under consideration for publication. The correct answer here is no, because you cannot publish a manuscript in 2 journals at the same time. This is a violation of the ethics of publishing. So make sure whenever you have an article, submit it to the first journal and then wait for their decision. Either it was acceptance or rejection or major revision or minor revision. Once the peer review process finished and they decided, let's say, to reject your manuscript, then you have the right to go ahead and submit to another journal. But you cannot do that at the same time as you are submitting the same manuscript to 2 journals at the same time. This is considered a duplicate publication. A very short story, one of my colleagues, so he said, I'm not going to wait 2 months to have my article published. I want to have my article published as soon as possible. So he submitted his manuscript in 2 journals at the same time. It was accepted in the first journal. It was published as a head of print. A head of print means, if you are not familiar with this term, a head of print is that usually wait for an issue to be published, but they're gonna have it ahead. Yes, sorry.
Sorry, the participant, they have issue with the screen. Can you unscreen and again share the screen again?
Okay, let me do that again. Sorry.
Because it's too small for them, or I don't know what is the issue.
Okay, hold on a second. How about now?
Everyone, are you okay now? Is it working? One mention, double tap on the small square switch. Now it's working, yeah, thanks.
Welcome. All right, so as I was saying, so he submitted, so the article was accepted in the first journal and it was published. Now, he didn't expect that it will be accepted. And then the second journal find out that it was published. And then they notified the other journal, and both of the journal withdrew his article. So he lost publication in two journals because he submitted at the same time. All right. Number 3 is relevant financial activities. Of course, if your article has been funded by an institution or there's a grant number, so in this case, you have to click yes and justify what is the name of the institution that, let's say, funded your research. Intellectual property, of course, the patents or copyrights. This is very important if they have them registered. And number 5 is the relations not covered above, the following relations conditions. For example, if you have any other justification you'd like to mention, you can make it here clear. A disclosure statement, this is very important. If you presented your manuscript in a conference, you have to say, this abstract has been presented in a conference, but the article hasn't been published. So you have to make sure that you disclose anything. So this is very important. So this is just an overview of the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. You can download the cover letter, this cover letter, the conflict of interest statement, and you fill it out yourself. It's compatible for both Microsoft and Mac users. All right. Now, reporting guidelines. This is very important, guys. I'll let you know why. So if you're planning to publish a randomized trial, you have to go to, this is a treasure. This website is a treasure for all researchers. Why? Because it will tell you the steps that you have to follow when you write your manuscript. So if you're doing an observational studies, you have to use this form. Systematic reviews, you have to use their Prisma. If you want to use a case report, you have to publish the CARE here. So you have to follow these guidelines based on the type of your study. And this is very important. I'll show you an example. Here is an example of a case report. This is the checklist. They call it a checklist for a case report. So they're asking here the first title, the title. The topic here is the title. The diagnosis or intervention primary focus followed the words case report. So you have to mention your case study or case report, the diagnosis of that case, and then at the end, case report, you put a semicolon and then case report and review of literature if it is. And then you have to put keywords. How many keywords? 2 up to 5. An abstract, introduction, what is unique about this case and what does it add to the scientific literature. So this is a very important guideline or a checklist whenever you write a manuscript. So go to this website, download the form or the guideline that's compatible to your research study, and then make sure you follow these steps. It's very important because whenever you submit a manuscript, they're going to ask you, okay, you submitted this systematic review. Where is the Prisma checklist? Please attach it along with the submission. All right. I hope it's clear. If I'm talking too fast, please let me know. All right. Next step is the information for authors. And this is very important. What do I mean by information for authors? Each journal has their own information for authors. So our journal, Annals of Psychiatry Medicine, they have guideline when you submit your manuscript to a checklist, when you submit your manuscript to our journal. So manuscript preparation, how to do that, scientific video submissions, you're planning to submit a video. Submission of a revised manuscript, clinical trial registry, of course. So this is like information for authors. Whenever you want to publish a manuscript to a journal, go to the website of that journal and check information for authors or guidelines. So sometimes they are titled information for authors. In other cases, they are titled guidelines, okay? All right, now we'll go over the steps of writing a manuscript, like step by step. I saw in the calendar, the program that you already went through how to write a research proposal. So I'm not gonna cover a lot of those elements. So titles. Does the title clearly and sufficiently reflect its content? And I'll give you some tips on how to write an effective title. Title is usually a statement that has to be a clear statement, concise, attractive to the reader, with the necessary information of the paper. No more than 150 characters or up to 12 words, depends on the type of your study. Original articles, it can be up to 150 characters. I'm referring to characters, not words. So characters is different from words, okay? And there are important 11 tips for a good title. Of course, you need to sell your paper. If you want people to read your article or researchers to read your article, you have to sell it. So you have to have an attractive title that will grasp the attention of your readers. And then concentrate on the essence of your paper. What is the essence? What does your paper add to the literature? Of course, before you publish or before you submit your manuscript, ask your colleagues, different colleagues, for advice. What do you think of this title? Do you think it's a good idea? Is it clear to you? Does it, for example, do you want to read that article? Does it attract you to read it, and so on? See the journal author guidelines. Of course, some journals will let you know that we have a certain number of words for titles, so be careful, okay? No jargons or abbreviations that are not clear. So common abbreviations are fine, like WHO, HIV, that's fine. But like, let's say a new abbreviation that will not be understood by the reader or the researchers, try to avoid it. Either you write the full form of the abbreviation or try to avoid the jargons or abbreviations. Of course, do not reveal the results of your study. Don't say we found out or in the title. Make sure that it's just a summary so people will read it and discuss and like go to the results section. Of course, avoid using doesn't or shouldn't. Of course, do not ask a question in the guideline. That's in the title. I mean, that's not right. If it's, let's say, if your article is related to a certain area, then you can mention that in the title. But if it's not, just leave it open. Of course, do not use comma or period if it's not necessary, and capitalize the first letter of your title and name of genes or, let's say, mutations, so differ. Okay. Important checklist. Does your title convey what the paper is about? Does it summarize it? Does the title indicate the specific technique or method? That's very important. What kind of method did you use for your study? So the study design. Does it include keywords from your paper? Or is the title free of jargon or, let's say, any kind of abbreviation that might be unknown to the reader, like I just mentioned? Here is an example of an article that was published in the Annals of Saudi Medicine as a head of print about COVID-19. And as you can see here, the title saying Principles of Care for Patients with Liver Diseases During the Coronavirus Disease 2019, COVID-19 Pandemic, Position Statement of the Saudi Association of the Study of Liver Diseases and Transplantation. So from the title, I know that first of all, it's a position statement. So it's presented from the Association from the Study of Liver Diseases and Transplantation. The other thing, they're talking about principles of care for liver disease patients during the coronavirus or the COVID-19 crisis. So I understand from the title, I'm very intrigued to read it. And at the same time, it summarizes everything that I really want to know. The second part is keywords. Keywords is very important, especially if you want your article to be found in medical databases, or it can be located. So the very famous keyword is the MISH by PubMed Central. It stands for medical subject headings, and I'm very sure it's like a vocabulary or keywords or words that are associated with your articles for indexation. So I'm going to show you how to find it from PubMed Central. So if you go to PubMed or PubMed Central, you will find here the MISH database of keywords. So it's going to help you very quickly to locate an article in certain, let's say, field. So it's very important when you write the title to also choose the keywords, and it shouldn't be common words. Don't choose diabetes or obesity, something that is very relevant and attractive to the, let's say, the researcher or even the physician or doctor. So in a nutshell, the title, authors, abstract, and keywords need to be very accurate because they're going to affect your indexing. They're going to affect the search. They're going to affect how many people will cite your articles, how many people will click on your articles and read it. And of course, the main text, the introduction, methods, results, each has a distinct function. We're going to cover it in a bit. Acknowledgement, references, supplementary materials. Acknowledgement is actually very important to thank those who helped you in the research, but they did not write or collect data. Maybe they just copy edited the manuscript. So it's not a significant contribution to writing the paper. Now, a successful title, when you read it, you'll say, oh, wow, that sounds interesting. Or this is really new discovery, I must read it. So whenever you read a title, just think about this. Does it really intrigue you to read it? Or does it let you know, like, it's already been reported in the literature, just a repetition and it's not interesting. So make sure to grasp the attention of your audience. Now, this is very important, guys. This is actually, I have it here with me. It's the AMA Manual of Style. This is actually a very huge book, as you can see from here. This has everything that you want to know about publishing in the medical field. Now, to be honest with you, I don't usually refer to the hard copy. I go to the online website here and search for whatever I want. So if you search, let's say, as you can see here, I search for the term figures. Like there are different types of how to present your figures. They will tell you the exact chapters where it's mentioned the word figures. And then you can go there and choose the correct format for presenting your data. So which one? Because figures, you cannot just choose any figure for presentation of data. You have to be very selective depending on what do you want to say deliver to the readers or researchers. Okay. Now let's move on to the abstract. Of course, abstract is very important because it summarizes the whole article. This is what reviewing editors and editors-in-chief of medical journal will first read. They're going to read your abstract. If your abstract is very informative and it's very clear, then they're going to go ahead and read your manuscript. Because physicians, they don't have the time to read a whole submission to discover if it's really important or not. The other thing is that it's very important for communication. What do I mean by communication? If you are going to a conference, you're going to submit your abstract for presentation as an oral poster or even as a different type of poster to be published as an abstract. Then the abstract is very important to, let's say, to give you the knowledge about the full article. So what does it include? It includes a brief background about your study, a specific aim, the methodology that you use, a description of how your results may affect the research area, okay? So abstracts paves the way to research paper. So this will determine let's say, if the reviewing editor, scientist will go ahead and complete reading your paper or they're going to stop, okay? Next important element is the difference between the types of abstract. There are two types of abstract. We have something called structured abstract and we have the other type is called unstructured abstract. It's very important to know what's the difference between them. So structured abstract is usually divided into elements, okay? It doesn't exceed 350 words. And this is an example of one of the abstract that was published in the Annals. You can see background, objective, design, setting, patients and methods, main outcome measure, what is the sample size, results, conclusion, limitation, and conflict of interest. So when I read this, I will get a very clear image about the whole study. Is it really worth publication or not? Now, not all journals follow this format. That's why it's very important to go ahead and check the information for authors. So this is a different types of, it's a structured abstract, but you can see there is a difference. It has only how many elements? 4 here. Background and objectives, methods, results, conclusion. So this depends on the journal's style. So for our journal, the Annals, we follow this style because it's more clear. It breaks all the information in a very concise way. But other journals prefer this type. They prefer very summarized. So it depends on which journal are you submitting your manuscript to. Now, the second type, which is unstructured abstract, this is an example of this unstructured abstract. It's usually contain 150 words, just to summarize paragraph, as you can see from here. So it doesn't include many information. Now, abstract for structured and unstructured. Structured used for original articles, brief reports. Unstructured is for case reports, reviews, many reviews, special communication. These types of articles listed here do not require an abstract. Letters to the editor, what's your diagnosis, perspectives, images in medicine, editorials, comment on published articles, technical notes do not require an abstract. Now, the main manuscript here, I will show you an example of an original articles. So original articles and systematic reviews, they have a very certain breakdown. So you wrote the abstract, now you move on to the full text. So it's divided into structured abstract, as we just explained, and then introduction, the patient, or if you don't have patient, then the materials that you use for your studies, and then the results, the discussion, the conclusion, and then the limitation. For case report, it's kind of different. You start with unstructured abstract and then introduction, and then explaining your case, if it's sometimes 4 or 5 cases, or 1, and then discussion and conclusion. And sorry, here, it's usually original articles, usually 3,000 words, excluding references, and case reports is usually 1,000 words. Now, I want to mention a very important thing. For case reports, a lot of journals stopped accepting case reports. Why is that? Because if it's not reporting something new to the medical literature, it's a repetition of, let's say, former published cases, they won't publish it. So if you go to the New England Journal of Medicine, they will say, if your case is not unique, we don't publish it. If it's a repetition of former studies or cases, we're not going to publish. So it's very important. Do not waste your time publishing a case report that doesn't add any value to the medical literature and just a repetition of cases that has already been reported, unless it has a very unique element that hasn't been reported before, or it has been reported but within minimum cases. Now, letters, usually there are 2 types of letters, either a comment on a published article. So we publish an article and we receive the comment from other authors. So we publish it. So it's like a letter to the authors. And then a brief report. Sometimes it's like a very summarized report about a new, let's say, medical equipment that have been launched or anything. So it's very limited. As you can see, it's only 500 words. What's your diagnosis? It's usually a question and an answer. It varies between 500 to 800 words. So you can see here, Asian women with difficulty in swallowing. And then when you read the article, you will have the case, usually used in for medical students, a lot of them. And then you're going to read the diagnosis on the second page. So this is what's your diagnosis. Images, description of a medical image, a very like 1 page to 2 pages, 500, doesn't exceed 500 words, just a very description of a medical image and what do they found or what's the conclusion. Now, as you can see here, there's no abstract because it's an image, and with the one before it, what's your diagnosis doesn't include an abstract as well. So I just give you a very, let's say, an overview about the types of studies. Now, the recommended number of words, like I said, each journal has its own guidelines. So before you submit your manuscript to a journal, make sure to check their guidelines, okay? Now, the introduction. So now we're moving on to the introduction. The introduction in a very summarized way. First of all, you have to review the medical literature. That's the first thing. And then what is the rationale behind publishing your manuscript? Brief description of your proposed study. What are you planning to publish? And then what is the gaps? So if I publish my manuscript, what will it add to the medical literature? So for example, I found out in that reported study by the name of the first author, ATL, that, for example, they did not go over this field. Of course, this is a very summarized way of saying it. So what are the gaps that you're trying to fill out by publishing your article? Of course, relevant work to prove your study. And of course, you have to support it with data. and the benefits of publishing your manuscript to the medical field. Materials and methods will, of course, look into the study design. Like I said, systematic review, cohort, so different types of study design depends on what are you trying to convey or the message that you're trying to deliver. The sample size, the data collection methodology, what did you use, SPSS, or what's the program that you use? Is it a questionnaire? Data analysis methodology, questions, items, like I said, questionnaires, potential difficulties and limitation of your study. Of course, it can be listed in the materials and methods. Now, statistical consideration. Statistical consideration is very important, guys, because of course you're not, let's say, you're not, let's say, biostatisticians. So it's very important to, within your study, before you go ahead and write your study, to invite your biostatistician to a cup of coffee and make sure that he's involved in the study, because he's going to help you with the statistical analysis. They're going to help you with analyzing the data, choosing the right sample size. So make sure to involve a statistician within your biostatistician is very important within your study, because without a biostatistician, your study will not be successful, especially if it's an original article, systematic reviews. Ethical consideration. Here, actually, it's 5 elements. The inclusion criteria, the patient's gender, what are the cases that you're trying to cover. The exclusion criteria, for example, if you're covering a certain age, let's say from 25 to 30 or 25 to 40, depends. Data confidentiality, of course, how are you going to anonymize the data? Data storage process and consent documents, especially for patients, if you're going to report the findings. So you have to ask them to sign a consent form. It's very important. Now, references, guys. References, as you can see, usually includes the name of the authors, the title of the article, the volume and the issue, the year, and the name of the journal that the paper was published in. So this is a reference. References list is usually called bibliography, and they are a list of references at the end of a manuscript. In-text citations, this is very important. A lot of people, when I tell them in-text citations, like, what does it mean? What does in-text citations mean? I don't understand. In-text citations are, in a very simple term, they are the citations within the article itself. So we cannot try the full reference here. So number 1, well, they will go ahead and check number 1 from the references list in here. So this is what I mean by in-text citations. It's a form of numbers if you are following the Vancouver style, which is numerical. If you're following the Harvard style, it's usually the last name of the author and then the year. Okay, as you can see here. So this is the in-text citations. It has to be in order. If it's not in order, then it's not correct. Famous software is EndNote and Mendeley. They are very famous softwares for organizing your references. Please, please, please don't do it manually. It's a waste of time and effort. There are a lot of programs that can help you to do all the references within a minute. So make sure do not use manual process to organize your references. EndNote is a very simple software that you can use to organize your references. Mendeley as well, as long as you have a subscription. We have a upcoming session of webinar if you're interested on the 20th August on how to use EndNote. Now, why is it important? Of course, to acknowledge the hard work or the quotes and ideas of other researchers to avoid plagiarism. Be careful, guys, because if you are, if you write an article and you did not cite the references, they call it plagiarism, okay? سرقة العلمية. So make sure to always cite the references, and it's incorrect to copy paste the exact same words. You have to first paraphrase it in your own words and list its definition, and then write the reference or the in-text reference at the end of the manuscript. There are 3 major systems for organizing your references. The first one is the citation sequence. This was before known as the Vancouver style. So it's now changed to citation sequence. They changed the name of it. And the name year system, it's the Harvard style. And the citation name system, it's a new system. I'm going to explain it in a bit. So citation sequence, it's very commonly used. It's usually numerical. So I'm going to show you. This is an example of the citation sequence. So all of your references are organized at the end in a numerical order. And the references will include, this is an example of a book or a journal article. So first includes the author name, the journal, let's say the family name and initials, the title of the article, title of the journal. You don't have to worry about this. I'll tell you why. Because when you go to EndNote or Mendeley system, you can just click whatever citation that you use and they will just shift it to the journal's style. So it's going to save a lot of your time. But I just want to explain it to you because sometimes the journal says, we follow the Vancouver style. The Vancouver style, I'm going to show it to you here so you'll understand it. I have it here open. So this is the Vancouver style, guys. So when you go to the end of the manuscript, you will find it here, okay? And the references within the manuscript itself are organized in a numerical order. So this is it. This is in text citation, all right? But in the Harvard, it's different. The Harvard, it's not numerical. You will find it like this, Smith, 1999. And so it will be the name of the last name of the author and the year. And it will be alphabetical at the end of the manuscript, not numerical. So that's why when they're saying, we return your manuscript because you did not follow the Vancouver style. The Vancouver style is the numerical style. And the Harvard style is usually the last name of the author and the year. And this is examples of how it's presented, as you can see here. This is the full citation of a book, and this is the journal article. A citation name system, it's a combination of both types, and I never saw a journal that used this kind of citation style. So the two famous systems is the Vancouver and the Harvard, which is the numerical and the alphabetical. Okay, of course, very important. If you have text and tables, make sure, and those text and tables, let's say they are summarized, let's say a summary of systematic reviews or reviews articles. You have to mention the reference in the table. Don't say it's a table. I cannot add a reference. You can add a reference. Of course, if you are reporting material on the internet, you have to put the date that you access this article or the paper. All right, you have to know the difference between primary and secondary resources. Primary sources give more weight to original research paper or reports. Usually, you did the work yourself, and most primary research articles will start with a pre-review, and then they're going to start doing your finding. So this is most applicable to original articles. So this is what I mean by primary sources. And they usually have findings, numbers. As you can see, articles often report scientific numbers as was published by the University of Portland. The secondary sources is more of a summarized, let's say, findings, reviews. Doesn't usually include a lot of number. Article title covers a broader area. No methods of results section. So it's mainly reviews, many reviews, not systematic reviews. Systematic reviews actually falls under the primary sources. Okay, so I actually want your help with that. And at the end of the session, I'm going to ask you about the answer. So this is an article. This is a reference that's messed up. So I want you to have a piece of paper and just write your answer. And at the end of this session, I will get, let's say, take 2 answers. So I'll give you 1 minute I want you to organize this reference according to the, let's say, the Vancouver style. So what goes first? So just let's say, write it down very quickly. And then I'm going to ask you about I'll ask you about your answer.
You can use the Q&A section to answer the question.
Yeah, you can use the Q&A section. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Dr. Yusuf. Okay, we'll see if we have any answers in Europe. Sorry. Oops. Okay, we have here.
Can you repeat the question again?
All right.
Someone
So,
asked.
I'm sorry, Mike. Oops. No.
Oh, wow. Slow down,
Okay.
slow down.
All right. Let me close this here. Okay. So this is the title. This is a reference, and it's not organized correctly. So I want you to tell me what are the elements that goes in the right order. So this is the first one, is the article title. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
There are multiple answers, so...
Okay, let's see, okay.
Can you review it?
Okay.
So subject, authors, journal, year, link, or authors, then subject, journal, years.
Oh, we have a correct answer in here by Aisha. Excellent, Aisha. Okay, see that? Okay, sorry. And also authors, title, journal name, your publication page, access date, website. Excellent. Yes, that's correct, Hassan. 3 names, ETL, that's correct. Title of the article, journal, year, about. Excellent. Author is correct, but the date goes at the end. Name, title, journal, website, and number. Usually the number go ahead before the website. Author names up to 5, correct, and then ATL, Malik, and then the name of the study, journal name, publication, length, DOI. That's perfect. Perfect, excellent. Yes, we have a lot of good answers. So this is actually how the final reference should look like. So the name of the authors followed by ATL, the article title, as you can see here, the journal name, usually abbreviated, and the year of publication. This is the volume, and this is the issue, and this is the pages number, and the link, and the access. So this is how it will look like. Excellent. Thank you so much for your participation. You're excellent researchers. All right. Important reminder, the biggest consequence of not following the reference format is the per journal requirement. So if you submit a manuscript to a journal and you did not read the information for authors, you didn't check their, let's say, website, and you know what are the format they're following, they're going to return your submission for corrections. So try to avoid that by going into their information for authors and checking what is the citation style that they're following. Now the figures usually, the format that we follow, either TIFF or EPS, usually resolution is 300 dpi or greater resolution, not lower than that. If you are publishing an image or a figure from any other study that's not yours, you have to write to the author and get permission to republish the image with their consent. Because if you don't do that, you're going to violate the copyrights, okay? And maybe your articles will be withdrawn or retracted from publication because of this. If the authors wrote to the journals and they said they used our figure without permission, the journal can retract the article until you clear the problem with the original author. So whenever you use a figure of an author that's not, of a researcher that's not yours, please, please, please write to the author and ask him for permission. If they said yes, you can either use their email as a, let's say, consent, or you can ask him to fill out a form and sign it, so you will not face any legal problems. Of course, illustrations within a manuscript, you have to refer to them, and I'll show you an example. We face this a lot, guys. So if I go to this article, can you see it? Can you see this article?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so if you go here, you have to first mention where figure 1 was first reported, okay? You cannot just introduce the figure without even referring, without actually study flow diagram, without mentioning it. So this one, it's very important. You have to refer to the figure within your site article, and then you have to have a title for the figure. They call it a figure legend. They call it the legend. So if you don't have a legend to your figure, they're going to ask you to, they're going to write back to you and they say, well, your figures are missing the legends or the title. What do you expect? Because the reader, when they see this figure, they will not understand what does it mean. So you have to report it. It's very important, okay? All right. So
Sorry, Mr. Ghammas, you have 5 more minutes for the first section.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Perfect. I'm almost done. Okay. So very important, guys. If you want to go to PubMed Central, they will tell you each type of art, each type of figure, and they will ask you about the resolution that you have to use. So this is very important. If, for example, this is a line art, so the resolution should be between 900 to 1,200. Okay. And of course, figures, if you have figures, you have to report number, let's say A and B, and add errors if you want to clarify. Very important, you have to also ask for consent and do not show the face or the figure facial expressions of your patients, because this is a violation of the copyright. Tables, guys, tables, do not, please, do not submit your tables to us in an image form. Why? Because we cannot edit it when we publish your table, because sometimes they give it to us in an image form, but within we will reformat it according to the citation of the journal, the style of the journal, and it has to follow a certain style. So if it's in image format, we're going to go back and forth asking you to correct it. So from the start, please do it in a Word document and save each table differently. Some journals, they will ask you to have the tables at the end of the manuscript after the references. Of course, if you're publishing a table that's been published by another author, of course, you have to have their consent. Data sets. The Annals of Saudi Medicine, we started 2 years ago to ask all submissions of original articles to submit their data sets and anonymize the data. Anonymize means that there is a certain technique to hide the name of the patient. Why do we do that? We want to make sure that the figures and the figures are actually accurate. And when we rerun your results in the data set, it will give us the same result. So I'll tell you something. We got some cases of fabrication of data. Fabrication means they lied about their data, so they were blacklisted. So be careful. Another thing, they use something called salami slicing. Salami slicing, when you have a data set and you cut it into pieces and you publish it as one study, and you cut it into another piece and you publish it as another study. So they call it salami slicing. So this is a violation of the ethics. Be careful, okay? So what I'm trying to say for the data sets, when you publish when you do your research, some journals will ask you to provide your data set where you anonymize the data, and they're going to use it for internal use only, not to have it republished or not to have it, let's say to share it online. But other journals would share it online, so it depends. So for our journal, it's only for internal use, just to rerun the data, make sure that the results are accurate. So this is for the first section. Okay, so I'm going to take questions from your end, please. Thank you so much for listening. And this is my business number if you have any questions. And this is my email address. And this is our Twitter handle if you have any questions as well. So I'm going to give the floor to Dr. Youssef to run the questions that we received.
Thank you, Mr. Ghammas, for really elaborated talk. Yeah, we can take hours talking about just the manuscript, but you put it in a concise way. So thanks.
Thank you.
We have multiple questions about the first part. So a question from Aisha Aidan. She is asking about have been taught that title should be a research objective included bioelements. So how to make it attractive? Clarify, please. So when you talk about the title, some of the statistician or in public health, they are saying use the BICO as the question or the title. So can you use that, or it's better to change it? Because you said you can't use it as question. Don't put question mark.
Well, so they usually ask a question when, for example, for articles, we receive articles as a questions, but they don't add the question marks at the end. So it will be a question, but without the question mark. And usually try to avoid questions because it doesn't really attract the readers. It's more when you go to this book, you will find it's more of an old style. So, and much as before.
So how can we use the BICO question as the title or not? So
Bio question?
BICO, B-I-C-O, the
you can
population
use that. Yes,
intervention and comparison
yes,
and
you can use that.
outcome.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
you can use that. Yeah.
Thank you. There's a question about which the first part you need to use or to write in the paper usually when you're writing paper.
So okay,
which part you start with?
I wrote a lot of papers. So the first thing that I actually was taught is to write the abstract. I'll tell you why. Because once you write the abstract, it's just like a 350 words. You can just add up and start adding. It will give you a very summary. So whenever I write a research paper, I go to my supervisor and it's like, he taught me the first thing that I was like, it's very difficult. I don't want to write a paper. It's very hard. He said, just write the abstract first. 300 words, 350 words. And once you start, you will never stop because it will just intrigue you to continue writing. So yeah, the abstract first, and you can run it by your supervisor or your other corresponding author or co-authors for opinion, and then you can go ahead and build it from there.
It will be like the map for you when you write.
Exactly. Yes, correct. Yeah.
Good. So there is a question about for original articles, does an article need to be 100% new? Meaning, does it have to be completely novel? Are repetition generally acceptable, and under which conditions?
Okay, that's a very good question, actually. Original articles, well, for original articles, whenever actually for promotions, steps, and bonuses, they always ask for original article or systematic reviews. They never ask for letter. They don't consider letter as a publication. They don't consider what's your diagnosis as a publication. So original articles, as long as you add something valid to the medical field, either if it's not a repetition exactly the same, of course you're going to add something new or make it different, or you have different, let's say, either more sample size, more or different methodology that you use.
Different ethnicity, like.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So original article all the time is a positive. Now I saw, actually just to add, questionnaire studies, I noticed that a lot of journals stopped accepting questionnaire study because if you go to the pyramid of research, you'll find questionnaire study is the least type of articles that is cited. And it's usually opinion, just an opinion. So a lot of researchers try to avoid using or publishing questionnaire studies.
Okay, thank you. Can we unmute Mohammed Siddiq? Mohammed Siddiq, can you ask a question, please? And Mohammed Rajab Naji, can you unmute Mohammed Rajab? Mohammed Rajab, do you have any question?
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. Thanks a lot for this very nice, concise presentation. I'd like to ask if my manuscript is big somewhat, about 4,000 words or something like that, what steps should I do to cope with the journal requirements? And thanks again for your very nice and concise presentation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's a very good question. So some journals are very strict when it comes to the number of words. If it exceeds the number of words, they will say, no, please summarize it, cut down some words from there or different sections. But other journals are more lenient, so they will allow a little bit of, let's say, extra 200 words or 300 words, depending on the article type. So it depends on the article, like if you, on the journal. If you go to the journal and you check former publication and you found the exact number of words in all the article types, it means that the journal is very strict and you have to cut down. Like try to either eliminate the literature review, don't make it too elaborate, just make sure to publish, support your article with 2 studies or 3, either 6 or 7. So that's usually the introduction is the area where I can cut from. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that.
Or the materials and methods, you can summarize your findings into tables. So this will save a lot of time, space.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Mr. Ghammas, in short answer, should citation be mentioned in acknowledgement or as a co-author?
Well,
they ask it for so many times.
Yeah, actually, that's a very excellent question. So as citation, if you pay them, they are not considered to be part of the paper. They should be in the, not even the acknowledgement, because you took a service, and because a lot of websites now, they offer statistical services, right? But if you, let's say, use the PI statistician from your own institution, and he was with you from A to Z, then in this case, they have to be a co-author of the study, and you didn't pay them. Yeah.
So about this citation style, which one you usually be used, Harvard or Vancouver? Or it's according to the, yeah. It's according to the journal. Yes, sorry.
That's a very excellent question, actually. The citation style that are very commonly used is the Vancouver, which is the numerical. So British Medical Journal is using it. New England Journal of Medicine is using it. We are using it. It's more, how can you say, it's more concise. But other journals, no, they're still using the Harvard style.
For when we list the reference, is there any time more than 5 years we cannot use the reference, or it's open?
Sorry, what do you mean?
So when we write the introduction and we reference something, reference an article before, is there a time limit, or we can use an article from years and years ago?
Okay, so usually for our journal, we look at the 5 years from last year. So we prefer articles that publish data from the last year, 5 year, former 5 year or past 5 years. Older than that, we consider them as old citations, but it depends on the article type, because if it's a case report and this case wasn't reported before in the literature till, let's say, in 2010, then we can make an exception because there isn't a lot of studies about this case. So yeah.
Okay. There was a question about when you rephrase a statement, should we put a citation mark?
Yes, you can. You have to. You have to. Yeah. Very important.
If we rephrase.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
No. If we rephrase the question. Okay.
You have to. Why? Because it's still, even after you paraphrase it, it's still not your idea. It's still, you took that idea and you just formatted it into new wordings, but you still have to cite it. I blacklisted a lot of authors because of plagiarism. We give them first the right to explain why did they do that. And if there's no clear justification, then we add them to a blacklist or notify their institution that they did plagiarism.
But do we need to put the marks, the citation marks, or just cite it?
No, you have to put the citation marks. Yeah.
How we can cite a figure? Let's say I took a figure from different article, how we can cite it?
Okay, so if you took a figure from another article, you have to communicate with the authors of that study and ask them for permission to republish the figure. So usually a figure, a table, you have to always ask for permission. And then when you publish your article, you will write under the figure, permission was obtained from authors of this study. And you write the reference, the number of that article. But all the time, figures and tables, you have to ask for permission.
Okay. Can we unmute Mohammed Gahtani, please? And while, okay, Mohammed, can you ask your question, Mohammed Gahtani?
Yes, can you hear me, guys?
Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you for this interesting presentation. My question is, you have mentioned in your presentation that your recommendation is to use Equator Network, which is the guidelines for scoping review, systematic review. Could you please be more specific how this could help us in order writing our publication?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Mohammed. It's a very excellent question, actually. Okay, so the aim of this tool, the Equator Network, is to give you the steps of writing the study type. So if you are a first-time researcher and you haven't published any study before, so this can be used as a tool to give you the steps of writing your paper. Let's say systematic review, they are different from case reports, they are different from original articles. So we give you steps of writing this paper. Some journals, they will ask you to attach this guideline. They will ask you to attach it to your manuscript if you compile, if you followed all their requirements. So it's very important that you go ahead and check the guideline based on your article type before you go ahead and write. This will save you a lot of time. It will give you an idea about how to write.
Okay, thanks. Should we follow each step of these guidelines or just have an overview?
An overview, that would be really great. And also you have to make sure the overview that you took compatible with the overview of that journal that you're planning to submit your manuscript to. So they go hand in hand. So this journal citation, the journal style, and the guideline that you use, they have to be compatible. Maybe the equator is telling you something, the equator network, but the journal style is telling you something else. So in this case, you have to follow the journal style itself. You can miss that step. Yeah.
Is there any
Mohammed, sorry, but this is your third question. Sorry, but we have a lot of questions and we are already out of time for the first part of the lecture. The last question I want to ask you, because most of our attendees today are students. This question is important for them. If I participate in a research as a student, do I consider as a first author or co-author? And how we list the authors?
No, very good question. I'm very impressed. It's a very excellent question. You're a student, guys, mashallah. You're very talented. Okay, so all right. So when you write a research paper, some journals defines that the senior author, or let's say your supervisor, should be the last name of the paper. And a lot of journals recognize this, that if an author is the last name, this means that he is the senior author. And the other authors are just based on the order. Now, some researchers do that based on the contribution level. So the highest, let's say, if you wrote the introduction and the results, and you do the analysis, then your name will be first. And so it depends on the contribution level. So it depends on, let's say, when you divide the contribution of each author, so based on the order. So some journals will, like I explained, consider the last name as the senior and the remaining based on the contribution. For our journal, it's based on the contribution, and it's based on how the author, the researcher submit the paper to us. We don't change the order because that's how they chose to present the order of authors. We follow the exact order that they provided to us. So a lot of journals based on the contribution. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Ghammas. If anyone has any question about the first part of today, you can contact Ms. Ghammas in her contact. She kindly share her email, mobile, and social network in the screen. So now we'll move to the second part of today course, journal selection, how to avoid the predatory journals.
This is actually the fun part. So we went over a little bit of a hard part. Now you're going to enjoy this, hopefully. It's very nice because I'm telling a story. So hopefully you're going to enjoy it. So so today I'm going to talk about the different types of the scientific publishing system. I want to take you behind the scenes of what's happening when you submit your manuscript or before you submit your manuscript. So I'm going to talk about the scientific publishing system, the types of scholarly journals, especially you are medical students that are very eager to publish. So that's very important to know. The journal metrics, the pitfalls of predatory journals, and have you been invited as a speaker? Now let's start with the scientific publishing system. The scientific publishing system is a circle. When you take one element, the whole system falls down. So the first thing is that you have to know you are the researchers, and we are considered to be the publishers. The librarians are the one that will index your paper. Index your paper means you will find it in PubMed, you'll find it in ScienceDirect, you'll find it in Scopus. That's what they do, the librarian. The readers are the researchers that will cite your paper, and you're going to receive citations. The editors are those behind the scenes. When you submit your manuscript, you're going to review it and check if it let's say if we send it to reviewers to check the quality of this paper. So it's a circle. If you take one element, it all falls down. So this is the scientific publishing system. Before you publish a paper, you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. The first one is that, is your study original results or methods or outdated work? Are you talking about something that happened 25 or 30 years from now, doesn't add a lot to the literature, but you just want to publish, okay? Is it a duplication of published work? When you're talking about duplications, it's exactly the same, and you didn't add anything new, you didn't increase the sample size. Incorrect conclusions, of course, if you don't have a good biostatistician to help you writing your paper, in this case, of course, you will come to incorrect conclusions and findings. But your paper is ready to be published when you have original methods and results, significant enhancement to the medical community, an up-to-date review of a subject or a field. And all the time, please try to include a senior researcher when you write your manuscript, especially if it's your first time, because you need guidance and you need help. And that's not a shame, but you shouldn't be ashamed to ask for help. Now, the types of scholarly journals, and I'll explain to you this because you're going to submit your manuscript. Of course, I know that a lot of you maybe wrote an articles and you're ready to publish, or you're planning to write and publish soon, because it's part of the Saudi Commission for Health Specialties now. And you get points if you publish. If you don't publish, you don't get points, right? So the first type is the predatory journals. And the second one is the open access journal, and the subscription-based journal is the third type. The fourth is the hybrid journals, mirror journals, and the hijack journals. So let's go to the first type. Predatory journals, they are fake journals. They are not real, okay? What do they mean? What do I mean by that? They have a fake website. They ask you for money, but once you submit your manuscript, they take the copyrights of your paper, and then it will never be indexed. It will never be, you will never find your paper in PubMed or PubMed Central. And now they are a lot of journals, a lot of journals. I'm going to show you examples. Now, open access journals, the Annals of Saudi Medicine is an open access journal. It means that our articles are free of charge. Open access journal means the articles are free of charge, and the publication is free of charge. So you don't pay to publish and you don't pay to read. So everything is free. The subscription-based journal is like the British Medical Journal, New England Journal of Medicine. You have to pay to access articles. The hybrid journals, they are a combination between open access and subscription-based. So some of the articles are open access and others are subscription-based, and you have to pay for it. Mirror journals, I'm going to explain this to you guys. And hijack journals are, let's say, users, or let's say those users that take the domain of the journal and reformat it. And I'll give you an example. So a predatory journal asks you for your publication fees without a peer review process. They do not send your article for reviewers. And there's no editorial services. What do I mean editorial services? They do not edit your manuscript. They do not lay it out. They do not send it to reviewers. They do not index your article. So that's a predatory journal. So they ask you for money. They do not provide a peer review process, and they do not provide an editorial service. So this is a predatory journal. And they call it al-majallat al-muftarisa because they take your money away. Fully open access journal articles are publicly available, so you can read the articles. No paid subscription, so it's free of charge. Article processing charges, some journals ask for, you read the articles for free, but when you want to publish, you have to pay. You have to pay a certain amount. So they call it article processing charges. This is a fully open access journal, the British Medical Journal Open. They provide the articles for free, but if you want to publish, you have to pay a processing charge for your article. Subsidized open access journals. Everything is available. Everything is free, but everything is covered by the institution. So this is the Annals of Saudi Medicine. Everything is free. Readers get the articles for free. And when you submit your manuscript, it's free, but all the expenses are covered by the King Faisal Hospital. So it's subsidized. So everything is shouldered by the institution. like King Saud University. They have a lot of journals. I believe some of them are subsidized and others are you have to pay to get to publish. So I can say subsidized open access journal is the Annals of Saudi Medicine. Now, there are a lot of articles that actually encourages publication in open access, because when you publish in open access, your article will get more citation. Your articles, you're going to get more citations and visibility, and you're going to increase something called Hirsch Index. So the journal has something called impact factor, but you as a researcher, you have something called the Hirsch Index. So Hirsch Index is how many times researchers cited you as a researcher, as you, not as the journal. So if you have some publication, with time you will develop something called Hirsch Index, and it will show how many times your article has been cited. So if you publish your article in open access journal, you're going to get more citations. So of course, the open access process, like I say, will increase the citation rates. You will have more unique visitors. It drives innovation, global impact. A lot of people from locally and internationally will access your paper, comply with funder policies, public access, of course. Subscription-based journal is the New England Journal of Medicine. You have to pay to access their articles. So this is an example of a subscription-based journal. Hybrid journal, this is an example of a journal called Diseases of the Colon or Rectum. And some of their articles are open access, others are not, are subscription-based. So this is just like an overview when you publish your article, and sometimes it goes immediately to open access. Some journals will hold it for a couple of months and then they will have it open access. Plan S by Science Europe. So let me explain to you Plan S. So in 2018, European Society decided that any article that is funded by the European government should be published in open access and not behind a paywall. And they call it the Plan S, okay? And now it's been followed in the UK, and the USA is trying to follow the lead. So what does it mean? That any article that is funded by the government, it has to be published in an open access journal where everybody can access that article and do not pay for it. So it has to be free of charge. Now, a lot of people, researchers, science petition backing plans to add paywall. A lot of people said, we do not want to pay for subscription anymore. It's too expensive, right? For us in Saudi Arabia, the library is usually the one, let's say, is the one that shoulder the expenses. So you get all the articles free of charge. But other countries, maybe they don't have access to libraries or they do not have access to certain journals. Now, what happened? When they started doing the Plan S, some journals thought that they're going to lose. They're going to lose revenue. What do I mean by that? So whenever you publish an article in a journal, they're going to ask you for processing charges, money, maybe $1,000 like dollars. So it's like 4,000 riyals, okay? And this money will fund the journal, to publish, to be alive. So once you start publishing your article behind the paywall, Plan S, they're going to lose. So what did they do? They did something called mirror journals. Mirror journal, they have the same exact name as the journal, but it's followed by the letter X. Can you see the letter X here? Yeah. So
Yes.
This journal is indexed in a lot of databases, but the new journal, they call it the mirror journal, it's not indexed. And it still has to go through the indexation process. It has to go through, to be submitted to PubMed. So please, when you submit your article to one of Elsevier journal and you found the letter X, it means it's a mirror journal. It's not the original. It means that your article will be open access, which is a good thing. But you have to please check the indexation details. Maybe this journal is indexed in PubMed, DOIJ, Scopus, Science Direct, but this journal is still under the process. So if your institution is asking you to publish it in ISI journal, so maybe this one is not. So just make sure the mirror journal is not wrong, but at the same time, it might not be indexed as the original journal. So some journal, they're saying no impact factor in many meta journals, which is correct, because that journal, the original journal, went through a very long process to get the impact factor. But the new journal with the letter X, it's still new. It's considered a new journal, but the same name, but with the letter X. So it depends on what do you want to actually publish your article. Do you want to just publish it in any journal and you don't care if it has an impact factor or not, or if you want to publish it in a journal with an open access? Others saying warning on mirror journals. So there's an article that's published inside Higher AD Education. They said warning on mirror journals, and they're saying in their study, please don't submit your article in mirror journal because they are not indexed. Some of them. The third type is the hijacked journal. Hijacked journal is that the cyber criminals, they wait for a journal domain, if you know the domain of a journal. So the website is hosted on a domain, and the company or the university is paying for that domain. Sometimes the university forgets to pay or renew the subscription. So those cyber criminals, they go online and they purchase the domain of that journal, and it's the same name of the journal. Everything is the same, but they start charging fees for that journal. Okay, so they call it hijacked journals. And you can see here an example of how they steal the domain. So they wait for it to expire and then they take over. This is an example of a hijacked journal. It's called Journal of Earth Sciences. You can see here, this is the authentic journal. This is the original journal. And they got so tired of the hijacked their journal. If you look at the design, it's exactly the same, except for the colors. So they added here warning. So when you click on the warning, they say this journal is hijacked. They're copying us. They are not the right journal. So be careful, okay? So this is a hijacked journal. This is an example of a map that shows you the highest number of cyber criminals that they steal domains and take over journals. Now, the peer review process. All of our three journals follow a peer review process. What do I mean by peer review process? It means that we send your manuscript to reviewers to look at the data and check everything is correct. And then we publish it, we take a decision on that based on the reviewer's recommendation. So our peer review process, this is an example of the flow. So you submit your manuscript, it goes to us, we check that it's not duplicated, it's not plagiarized, and then we send it to the editor-in-chief. The editor-in-chief sometimes reviews it immediately and say acceptance. It's clear, there's no need for reviewers. But all the times they send it to a reviewing editor, and then the reviewing editor send it to reviewers, and then they will take a decision on that. There are three types of peer review process. We have the single blind, the double blind, and the open. And it's very important to know what is the journal, what's the journal's following. I'll tell you why. The single blind author do not know the identity of the reviewers, but the reviewers know the identity of the authors. So when you submit your manuscript, so let's just imagine this is your manuscript and you submit it to this journal, you don't know who will review your manuscript, but the reviewers will know you. Now, what's the problem with that? If the reviewers know your name and they have, let's say, a conflict with you, they might say, don't accept his paper. There's a conflict of interest. They won't say that to the journal. They will say, well, the paper is poor, it's not reporting new findings, but they know your name. So this is a single blind. So they will use it against you. Now, double blind, authors and reviewers do not know who you are. And this is what we follow. We make sure the reviewers do not know your name, and you do not know the reviewer's name. And even the institution name, we black it, or like we have it listed, like we hide it. So they will not have a conflict against that institution. The open is that the authors know the reviewers and the reviewers know the authors. So before you submit, go to the website. It depends. You want single blind, you want double blind, you want open. So most of the researchers prefer the double blind because there's no conflict of interest. So the pure review process makes sure that the articles are valid, add significant, let's say, finding to the literature, original and clear. So like you just mentioned, the originality, the study design, they make sure that your paper is worth your publication. So this is an example of a peer review process. This article was received in the 9th of February 2015. It was accepted 15 February, available, accepted 15 February, available online 20 March. Now this journal, the peer review process is fast. Why is that? This journal is a startup journal. Startup journals means the journal just started and they don't have a lot of submissions. So if a journal doesn't have a lot of submissions, the peer review process is faster. So it depends. So in this case, the peer review process is fast because it's a startup journal. Now let's go and talk about how to choose the right journal for your article. Of course, first of all, you need to choose the aim of your study or the audience. Who is the intended audience? You can't publish an article, general medicine, something in general medicine, you go and publish it in a specialized journal because they will reject your manuscript. They say it's the author interest do not meet our interest. Of course, choose only one journal. Do not publish at the same time. Wait for the first journal to give their decision, and then you can go ahead and do what? You can submit your manuscript to the second journal. Supervisor and colleagues can provide good suggestions. Always listen because you're still a medical student and you want to listen, hear their advice. Of course, you have to check the aim, the scope, the accepted types of articles. Go and check the website of the journal and see the current topics, the impact factor, the journal analyzer, and who are the editors, the guide for authors. So if you want to choose the journal, you have to go over all these steps. You can go visit the website, check the already published manuscript. Do you think it's a good fit to your article type or not? Elsevier provides a very good service called Journal Finder. If you put the paper title or the paper abstract and you click Find Journals, they give you good suggestions to journals. They will recommend journals that meet the abstract of your paper. And then you can go ahead and review each one of them and choose the right fit. It's called Journal Finder. Now, for the Annals of Saudi Medicine, when you go to our website, let me just open my website. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
You can see your screen.
So if you go to our journal, first of all, you will find, for example, this is Submission Center. You will go to the latest issues and check what are our former publication. You check the citation style. The author center is here. You will also check editorial board. Who is the editorial board? Are they ethical? What do I mean by ethical? Do they have LinkedIn profile, ResearchGate, ORCID ID? So it's not a fake journal. Okay? So this can help. Okay. The other thing that I want you to ask yourself before you submit your manuscript to a journal, will the editors of that journal appreciate our submission or publication? What do I mean by that? So whenever you publish a manuscript in a journal, will they promote it? Will they share it on their social media accounts? Will they give us credit by doing extra services? For our case, we do visual abstract to our authors free of charge. All our publication is free of charge, so we do not ask processing charges. So you need to ask yourself, will they appreciate or value our work or not? And also, for example, some journals offer something called Admetrics, where you can check when you click on your article, you see the demographics, how many people accessed it. Let's move on now to predatory journals. Predatory journals, we just mentioned, they are fake journals. They don't have a peer review process and they ask you for money. And a lot of publications that were published in the BMC Medicine and editorials saying that we need to take a firm action against predatory journals. Jeffrey Beal, his story is so sad. Like if you heard about his story, he's a librarian in the university. He used to be a librarian in the University of Colorado, Denver. He criticized predatory journals. So he created a list of predatory journals, fake journals, okay? One of those journals sued him. They sued Jeffrey Beal, this nice guy. So the university itself said, okay, we cannot handle paying lawyer fees. You have to take down the predatory journal list that you created. And his predatory list is very ethical. I mean, like he checks every journal and check if it's ethical or not. So he had actually to resignate. So he quit his job, but after a lot of pressure, he took down the predatory journals list.
But the good thing is that this list is still alive, and it's being fed by new names of predatory journals by anonymous researchers. So it's still alive. So if you go there and you search for list of predatory journals, you'll find it. And it's being updated on a regular basis. But we do not know who's doing that. Someone who is helping researchers to recognize predatory journals. So the features of predatory journals, the biggest thing is that they will take the copyright of your article. So whenever you publish your manuscript with them, they obtain the copyright. So that's why be careful. Do not publish your article in predatory journals because they will claim the copyright, and you cannot republish your manuscript to another journal. Some people say after they publish their manuscript in predatory journal, they ask the predatory journal to take down the paper. They said, we didn't know that you're predatory. Please take down our paper. We would like to withdraw it, but they didn't. They kept it there. Okay. This journal is an ethical journal. It's called Archives of Medical Research. Archives of Medical Research. But look at this one. Archives of Medicine. Archives of Medicine. This journal claims that the impact factor is 0.2. But when you go and check the impact factor, it doesn't exist. It doesn't really have an impact factor. And the website is very designed in a very well way. Like, look at it. They're very creative. They take everything, every element in consideration. They even have a WhatsApp number to steal your money. So you can see it's a very, very minor difference. Archives of Medicine is the predatory publisher, and Archive of Medical Research is the original ethical publication. But they just made a very small minor change, and nobody knows the difference, especially if you are a first-time researcher and your supervisor say, go and publish in Archives of Medical Research. And you just Google it and you find Archives of Medicine. It's like, okay, let's submit. So be careful. No existing peer review process. Predatory journals do not have reviewers. They immediately publish your manuscript without sending it to a review process. So this journal, they said, when you submit, you call for papers. They're asking researchers to submit. They said, if you submit your manuscript on the 27th of January, we're going to give you an acceptance within 2 days, and then we're going to publish it on 31 January. Very fast. So this is a red flag, guys. When you see a very fast peer review process, this means it's like, there's something suspicious in here. There's something wrong. You can't just trust them immediately because the review process is too fast and you can't even believe it. This journal called Journal of Neurology and Neuroscience. The website is amazing. Look at it. They're very creative. They chose colors, images, and they said the impact factor is 1.45. What impressive. Really? Your impact factor is 1.24 or 1.45? So please, if you're planning to submit a manuscript, you don't know the impact factor of the journal, email it to me. I'll check it for you. I went there. I took the Journal of Neurology and Neuroscience. I ran it by the system of the impact factor, something called Insight Journal Citation Reports. I put the name of the journal, and guess what? No results found. This journal doesn't even exist, doesn't have a impact factor. So fake metrics is another sign of predatory journals. They try to, let's say, make sure that when you check the page, it's like impact factor of 1.45, wow, impressive. But you have to check, it's really a real impact factor. This journal, they've claimed their impact factor of 4.236. Now, and they claim they are indexed in all of these databases.
Oh.
Okay. It's very impressive. Look, they're so smart, guys. Like, they are very creative. First of all, Google Scholar, it's just an open source Go engine. It's not considered an indexation page. Now, this one, DRJA, if you go to PubMed logo, the original PubMed, exactly the same, but they changed the name. Base, they copied the name of Embase. It's another journal. Research ID, guys, it's not an indexation page. It's a page where you create your own profile and you just, have list down your publications. Site Factor, CiteSeer, My Science Work, like Open Academic Journal, OIGA. They're copying something called Directory of Open Access Journal. I'll show you the logo of it, so you'll know that they're very smart. Yeah, here we go. So Directory of Open Access Journal, that's their logo. Like, look at this logo. They're trying to immediately like copy it in a way, but when you see it, you will not notice it's different. So this is another factor, that they are using images to attract you to submit with them. I Googled this journal, the International Journal of Innovative Technology and Research, and it doesn't exist. It doesn't really have an impact factor. Another element that is fake editors. So this journal, American Journal of Health Research, they're asking for what? Calling for editor-in-chief. So the journal doesn't even have an editor-in-chief. So I can't believe that there's a journal but doesn't have an editor-in-chief. Why is that a little bit ironic here? Because if they're calling for an editor-in-chief, it means that they want to use the image of a very famous researcher, very ethical researcher, and use his image to promote his journal. So my senior scientist, his name is Dr. Yasser Adi. He's excellent researcher. He has a lot of publication. He received a spam email telling him that the paper, warm greeting, the paper titled, they cited his article that was published. The paper has attracted attention from researchers specializing in this field. They want him to join the editorial board member. But this journal is fake. It's not ethical. So they want to use his name and image to ask other researchers and other authors to submit their manuscripts. The last time, 2016, the number of predatory journals reached 30,000. So can you believe it? That's crazy. Feature of predatory journal, they take copying the name of long-standing journal. I'll show you an example. Sorry. This journal called Preventive Medicine, okay? Preventive Medicine. This journal is called Journal of Preventive Medicine. They just added Journal of. This one is the fake one, and this one is an ethical journal. So they copied the name and they just added Journal of Preventive Medicine. So please be careful when you submit your manuscript to journals. Make sure that they are really ethical and they're not fake, because they're just going to claim the copyrights of your article. And the other element is the misrepresentation of the location of the publisher. This journal, for example, is managed by either Indians or not even, so they claim that it's a USA journal, okay? But they are managed by Indian researchers. I don't have anything against Indian, but I'm talking about is that it's a USA journal, and then the editorial board members doesn't meet the location. No long-term archiving. So the articles are not available in PubMed, not available in base DOIJ. So your article will be a lost science. I received an article from a very great researcher. She's a female researcher. I'm not going to disclose her name. She's very famous name. She submitted her manuscript to our journal. When we did the technical check, when we checked the manuscript, has it been published before? We discovered that this article has been published and it's a PDF, the full article, exactly the same. So we told her, why are you submitting your article? Please clarify. We received your article is already published and there's a PDF existing on the internet. So please justify. So she said that she submitted her manuscript to a predatory journal. She asked them to take it after she submitted it and they published it. She discovered that this journal is predatory. She asked them to take it down. They took it down, but the PDF is already archived within different, let's say, Google Scholar, ResearchGate. So nobody can take it down. So this is a lost science. So we couldn't accept her paper because we consider this a duplicate publication. Okay, Omics. Omics International is one of the famous predatory journals, predatory publishers. They have, if you go to their website, you will find a lot of their journals. The revenue in 2016 was 11.6 million from researchers. So they are actually being fed by those researchers when they submit their manuscript. And there's also Omics conferences. When you even Google omics, they will tell you it's predatory. Like it's written in the search. Here. Omics Publishing Group is a publisher of an open access journal that is widely regarded as predatory. So they're very famous of being predatory, but they have a lot of journals under them. More than 700 leading edge peer-reviewed open access journals. So be careful when you submit. Another one is Insight Medical Publishing. Insight Medical Publishing, they have around formed in 2005. And when you go to, I will show you. Hold on a second. Still have time. So let me show you. Okay. Look at this. So they have in different fields. Let's take clinical sciences. Look how many journals they have. And they are very well designed. Like they are very, very smart. Look at the design. Annals of Clinical Laboratory Research. So when you click here, advertise with us. Index in PubMed? Are you kidding me? Like, and they're claiming that their impact index, this one is value 87. Journal impact factor 1.87. I bet if I search for this journal, it doesn't even have an impact factor. So can you believe how many journals are here? And this is under which field? Clinical sciences. There's engineering, there's immunology, there's healthcare, nursing, and all of their journals are well known as predatory. So please be careful. Next. So I told you about their, so why do we as researchers publish in predatory journal? So first of all, career progression. If you're planning to get a promotion very fast. One researcher wanted to get promotion. He submitted his manuscript without knowing to a predatory journal. After he found out, he asked me, he's like, is this journal is predatory? I was like, yes, it is. I checked it for him. And then I told him it's predatory. He's like, well, never mind. It's already been published. And he was promoted because the university or institution did not check really if this journal that he published in is predatory or not, or ethical. Of course, inexperienced researchers, because the name of the journals are very same, like preventive medicine, they just added journal of, just a very small change. So how do we avoid predatory journals? A lot of institutions came together to stop predatory journals, but of course you can't because you don't know who are running those journals. They are hidden behind walls, behind screens. So they created a guideline to help researchers to discover if this journal is predatory or not. The first step is that you check. Okay, so I will do the steps with you step by step so you will see. Okay, first of all, when you publish in a journal, I want you to go to something called Directory of Open Access Journal, okay? And this is a medical database that has a lot of journals. Just Google the name of the journal, okay? So I Googled the name of the journal. Does the articles of this journal, here we go. Is the journal indexed in this database? If it's yes, then that's a good thing. If it's no, then it's a red flag. So the journal here, it's indexed. It means the articles here are available for the years. Okay, so first of all, go to the Directory Open Access Journal, check if the journal is there or not. If it's not there, it doesn't mean that the journal is predatory, but this is a red flag. So check no. Now the second thing, go to something called COPE. COPE stands for Committee on Publication Ethics. Committee on Publication Ethics is actually a non-profit organization located in UK. And if the journal is added in this list, it means that they are following the highest ethical guidelines. What do I mean by highest ethical guidelines? They mean it's not predatory. They actually test the journal. They submit, they check the history of the journal, they check and it usually takes a while. The journals that they submit to COPE to be accredited by COPE, by a Committee on Publication Ethics, they take a year to 2 years to be actually accepted. Okay, because they check everything. So go here and search for the name of the journals that you want to submit to the paper to. So this is the second step. Okay, accept. So here we have Annals of Saudi Medicine. So you can see that the publisher King Faisal, that's the website, ISSN number. So it is indexed. So if it's indexed, if it's a member of COPE, Committee on Publication Ethics, and it's indexed in Directory of Open Access Journals, these are good, two positive things, okay? Now let's go to the second step. Are you submitting your research to a trusted journal? Is it the right journal for your work? Of course, you have to check if the journal, let's say history, is the right journal for you. How do you do that? You go to the journal website, okay? And you go to the archive. You check the past publications. You read, check their past publication. What did they publish? Okay. You check if it's really ethical, if the format looks suspicious to you. So you check if the journal even has an archive. That means that the topic of the journal. Next step is that you or your colleagues know the journal. Of course, you can ask your senior researchers and tell them, well, what do you think of this journal? And you show them the website. You think it's ethical? Have you published before? You check the history and the archive like I just mentioned. Can you contact the publisher by telephone, email, and both? This is actually not applicable anymore because predatory journals have WhatsApp numbers now. So they are very advanced. So this is not applicable, but it means that if you can find a telephone or email that you can call somebody and ask you. Actually, I called the predatory journal. I tried to call a predatory journal, and they answered me, and they gave me their WhatsApp number. I was like, wow, they are very advanced. So just be careful. Is the journal clear about the type of peer review it uses? Okay, so let me show you something. When you go to their website, go to About, and check what is the review process. So here you will see peer review process. We have a double-blind peer review. Some journal will tell you single-blind. Some journal will tell you, single-blind or open access. So here, double-blind. Are the articles indexed in services that you use, PubMed, Embase, PubMed Central? Okay. In this case, you have to go where? Here, to PubMed. By the way, does anyone know the difference between PubMed Central and PubMed? Does anyone know the difference? Okay, write it in the comments. Write it in the comments because we're gonna. You have answers, Doctor?
If you want to publish open access, no. Until now, no. Nobody knows.
If I want to publish, sorry. Okay. All right. So I'll answer this question. All right, so PubMed or PubMed Central, called PMC, and PubMed without Central, PubMed, I'll show you. This is the PubMed. They actually, they launched their new system, the advanced one. Okay, so let's do it. Hold on, let me do a technical. Let me do something for you so you understand the difference between you because I want you to remember it. Okay, so I will go to archive. We'll go to an article that was published in the, let's say, 2020, 19, volume 39. Let's choose this one. Okay, quality of life among elderly residents for Baturn. Okay, I want any article, or let me just go first there. Because I want to show you the difference between it, the difference between each one of them. Okay, all right, so this is the archive. This is the PubMed Central, okay? I'm gonna take this issue. Communication. January, February. Okay, this one, hospital-based surveillance. All right, I'm gonna take this one. This is PubMed Central, guys, okay? I'm gonna go to PubMed. I'm gonna search for this here. Okay, I'm gonna make it minimize a little bit and show you the difference. Okay, this is PubMed. Do you notice anything? What do you notice here? Okay, this is PubMed, okay? PubMed. All right, now go to PubMed Central. Is it clear now? I hope it is.
Full article or only
Exactly. Excellent.
abstract?
Excellent. Well done. So if you're planning to look for articles that are open access and full text is there, you go to PubMed Central. But if you want just a summary or an abstract and then you will pay it, then you go to PubMed. Okay, so that's the difference. But both of them are actually a publication by the National Library of Medicine. So, okay, so you go to the National Library of Medicine and you check the name of the journal. Does the journal has past archive? Does the past archive of the articles exist? If it exists, that's a good thing. If it doesn't exist, another red flag. Okay.
5 more minutes.
And also
Mr. Ghammas.
Sorry?
5 more minutes, sorry.
Yeah, we're almost done. And then, okay, so we check PubMed Central. Is it clear what fees will be charged? Of course. How much money will they ask you to pay? Is it clear or not? Do you recognize the editorial board? As I just mentioned, you go to the journal website, and please, when you go to the journal website, go to editorial board, and please check if they are real people. They exist. They have a LinkedIn profile, ResearchGate, ORCID ID. ORCID ID, of course you know ORCID ID. ORCID ID is very important. Why? Because if you are a researcher, you create your own profile there. And now a lot of journals, if you don't have an ORCID ID, they don't allow you to submit. You have to have an ORCID ID. It's just like a page for your publications. I will show you an example. So here. So ORCID ID will just have a summary of all of your publications. You claim it, okay? Next. Is your publisher a member of a recognized, like I just mentioned, just showed you a Committee on Publication Ethics in London, or DOIJ, Director of Open Access Journal? Of course, you need, before you submit, you check the journal focus, the journal content, you check the archive, you check the charges. Is it reasonable? Is it too much? Journal discoverability, it means will your article be visible when you publish, or will they just have it in the past archive? Will they share it on Twitter, social media? Will they give you the right promotion to your paper? Of course, journal impact factor, some authors, it's very important for them because it depends on the promotion or steps they ask them to publish in a journal with an ISI. Think, Check, Attend is a new initiative that was launched, asking before you go ahead and attend an event, you check, you think about this event. Does it have former, let's say they held, let's say 5th event on critical appraisal workshop, 6th, 7th. Is it eligible or is it fake? Because some people now receive invitations. They ask them to pay, let's say 5,000, 10,000 to present their abstract. But when they go there, they will find an empty hotel. Nobody is there and it's fake. So make sure to always check when you go on, when you're invited to an event, before you go and present, make sure to follow this process. Of course, make sure that the journal has a long-term archiving, like I just showed you, indexed in PubMed, Embase, DOIJ. And that's it. Thank you so much all for listening and taking the time out of your schedule to join us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Amal Ghammas, for eye-opening topic. It's unfortunately for that researcher, her article is lost now and she cannot publish it. Yeah. So in the next 10 minutes, we'll go through the questions. There is a comment from Nasser Al-Atiq. I want to add Omics is the budgetary journal and now operating under another name called Pulsulus, PULSUS, Conferences and Publishers. So please avoid them. Thank you, Nasser, for your comment.
Thank you, Nasser. Thank you.
Now we will go through the questions.
They changed their name because they know they are, people now are more educated about what they're doing.
Yeah. So let's see what we have here. There's a question about blacklisted. If your name is blacklisted, can you able to publish again or not?
Well, for our journals, we received cases where authors they intended to plagiarize the article. They weren't like, there's no excuse for that. It was clearly plagiarized. We had to blacklist them for 5 years and notify the institution, but the blacklist is only for our journal, not other journals.
Okay.
So they cannot submit to our journal for 5 years.
Okay. Okay. But not in other journals. They can use
Not
the
other
other.
journals.
What is the meaning of impact factor and how it influences my choice of publication?
Okay, so now impact factor, usually it's an equation. Equation, what do I mean? So impact factor looks at the number of citation a journal received and the number of publication in the last 2 years. So for example, impact factor for 2019 is articles published in 2017 and 18 and the citation those articles got. So this is an impact factor. Now, why is it important? First of all, some institution like King Saud University ask their researcher, scientists and let's say professors to publish in ISI journals, which is, we call it impact factor journals. So it's important if you are aiming for a high impact for a journal, a Q1 or Q2 or Q3 or Q4. So it looks at the citations and the publication in the last 2 years. Now, the other one, the site score, Scopus site score, it looks at the 3 years, but it's not an impact factor, but it's something similar. It's like similar metrics.
Yeah, most of the university, they ask us to publish in index journals. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not only King Saud, even in the Imam, they ask us to do that.
Okay, yeah. Is it part of the Saudi Commission for Health Specialties now? Because I know you get points for that.
No, for the students, they don't need to be in index journals. They can publish anywhere. But for us, as to get promoted, you need to be in index journals. So can you repeat the name of the website where you can check the impact factor?
Yeah, of course. Let me show it on the screen so you'll be able. Yeah, this one, actually, it's a paid subscription. So it doesn't give it to individuals. It usually give it to institutional levels. Let me show it to you. Where is it? Yeah, it's here. It's called Insight Journal Citation Reports. There actually, it means impact factor. Journal citation reports mean impact factor.
Okay. If I'm a medical student, can I have an ORCID ID?
Yes, you can have. You can actually create one right now. Very easy. You just ask username, password. If you have former publication, you'll ask you to claim it. And if you want me to show you the steps, I'll be happy to schedule a Zoom meeting and just show it to you. But it's very easy. It's like you opening a ResearchGate profile. I think I encourage you actually to open one now because you can add your education, you add publications if you have some, and then when you ever submit a manuscript to a journal, they will ask for an ORCID ID. It's actually a very important step to a publication.
Great, thanks. Can you unmute Al-Bara Al-Ahmari? During that time, when will be the course of the EndNote course?
20 August. Any researchers who are interested, they're most welcome. It's going to be 20 August. Announced it on our Twitter handle and SaudiMed. The registration link is there as well. And yeah.
Al-Bara, can you ask your question, please? Al-Bara Al-Ahmari? No. Can you unmute Muhammad Rajab Naji, please? Muhammad Rajab, go ahead. Mr. Muhammad Rajab.
Hello.
أيوة تفضل.
Thanks a lot for this very nice presentation.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. If I discover after I publish one manuscript that it was a predatory journal by the means you explained, what steps should I do in this case? Thanks
well,
again.
First of all, that's a very good question because when you publish a manuscript in a predatory journal, the first step is that you notify, you ask the journal to take down your manuscript. If they don't do that, then because most of them are fake editors, they are behind walls, let's say internet walls, so you cannot ask them for that. So first of all, you can ask them nicely to take it down. If they don't, then you can ask the Google Scholar to, like, I discovered that they published in the Predatory Journal. May you please take down the PDF that's published? Because sometimes the Predatory Journal take down the website, and then after they take down the website, what's going to happen? Your PDF is still archived, but the website of this Predatory Journal no longer exists. So this is one of the steps, but most of the cases, unfortunately, doesn't succeed. The article will still be online.
Second, I'd like to ask how to join this course for EndNote. What is the steps to join?
You're most welcome. It's on our handle on Twitter. You can see it here if you want. So this is the Ansari Med. And sorry. I'm trying to look. Yeah, this is the one. So this is Ansari Med. You will find it under, hold on a second. We've announced it here. It's your situation like it's here.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Can I mute Maha Al-Anizi? And during this time, there is a question: why KPA researchers or research commonly get refused? Are there journals specialized in KPA research? Thank you for involving.
I mean quality.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah. If you're referring to KPI, because actually my sister is working a quality specialist in King Faisal Hospital as well, and she wrote a lot of articles and she wanted to publish. There's no local journals in Saudi Arabia about quality, so she'll always publish in international journals. So yeah, there is specialized journals about quality.
Maha?
Aywa, assalamu alaikum. Yes, can you hear me, Dr.?
Yeah, actually, I'm not a doctor. Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. First of all, let me thank you for this amazing presentation. It's a long-awaited and very needed one. So thank you very much again.
Thank you. Most welcome. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you. And also for the conferences, please. I have an experience, a very bad one, but thank God I was saved at the last minute. I had a research to present, and then not being very experienced, I found this very good and attractive conference taking place in a nearby country, and I figured I may go there. But then at the end, I noticed that they want the money. They're just so focused on having the money. The website is established, as you mentioned, and everything is there, but the WhatsApp messages were crazy. So I just wanted to note that for the people also here. However, the question is, how can I protect myself in the future? How can I know this is really a conference to go to or is fake? I understand you mentioned some websites for journals, but how about conferences?
True. There is this actually called Think, Check, Attend, and they help. It's an initiative that was creating, helping authors to researchers to recognize if they should go to events or how do they recognize fake events. And it's available online. Most of the times, I try to go to conferences that has already been done before. It's like another copy of that event in a form. Let's say they did the 5th event. This is the 6th. And let's say usually most events, if you're presenting an abstract, they don't ask for money because abstract usually free of charge. So when they ask for money, it's a bit questionable. Like, why are they asking for me to pay? I'm presenting my own abstract. So this is another red flag. If they're going there to attend, check, the venue, call them. Do you really have a booking of this name of an event on this date? Is it happening? Speakers, try, because sometimes they post pictures of speakers. Look at LinkedIn and just verify with the speakers. Are you going to be a speaker? I'm excited to attend. Just test if he's really going to be there or not. So,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Maha, for sharing your experience or almost.
Yeah, it's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. There is multiple question about publication and to do publication in the King Faisal Specialist Hospital Research Center journals. Is it free of charge? And do they need to have invitation from you or not? There was multiple questions about that.
We have 3 journals, so it depends on your journal. I just need to clarify that just for the ethics of clarification. Where is the covers? It's okay, it's there. Yeah, it's here. Yeah, I'm sorry. Here we go. Okay, so the Annals of Saudi Medicine is indexed in PubMed Central, ISI, Impact Factor, Scopus, Ovid, Embase, DOIJ. So all of the medical famous databases. Hematology, Oncology, and Stem Cell Therapy, and the National Journal of Pediatrics, they are indexed in PubMed, DOIJ, COPE, Scopus, also Science Direct. But just to clarify, both of those journals, the Hematology and Pediatrics, they're under the process to get an impact factor. So they still do not have an impact factor. I just want to make sure that it's clear. If you are planning to, you want to submit to ISI journals. So the only one that has an ISI is the Annals.
And do we need, does the publisher or the researcher need to be an employee in Kingfisher?
No,
Also, it's open for everyone.
It's open for everyone. Open for everyone, yeah.
Last question before we end the webinar today. How we can check for plagiarism in short?
Okay, so we provide a service to check. We have a program. Of course, there are some programs that are not expensive, and you can use them. There is, what do you call it, Grammarly. If you heard of Grammarly.
Yeah.
And Grammarly provide checking plagiarism. It's very cheap if you want to subscribe. I think it's 100 something. It's very minimal. Yeah, exactly. Authenticate is what we use, and it's very expensive. And if you want us to check your Authenticate, it's very expensive. They usually use for institutional level, not personal level. So Grammarly is the safe option, you know, to check for articles. There's another website I need to check, and I can send it to Doctor. To you, Doctor, so you'll be able to share it with the attendees. It's also free of charge, and you can check it. You check your manuscript.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Amal Ghammas, for
You're welcome.
presentation. It was very informative and eye-opening.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're more than welcome.
Dr. Yusuf, just want to add one thing, if you don't mind. This is the page of the Annals of Saudi Medicine. So you notice that a lot of journals now are asking for the ORCID ID. Just want to show you that.
Yeah, there was a question about it.
Yeah.
What is that?
So
what is the benefits from it? What is the benefits from it?
First of all, there are a lot of researchers with the name Young Ju, or especially in China, Asian countries. So one of the main reasons to create ORCID ID was to have a special fingerprint. What do I mean by fingerprint? This here, this number, this actually, this is my signature. So whenever I publish an article, it will has this ORCID ID. So if there's another lady, her name is Amal or whatever, my ORCID ID will distinguish me than the other Amal or. So especially if in our country, especially if you have Muhammad with the same last name, how do you know that Al-Qahtani or Al-Nizi or, so whenever you read the names, it was like, is he the same researcher? So it was created as a fingerprint to researchers to have their own ORCID ID as a distinguished service. So yeah, it's very important to be used.
Yeah, I published an article, and unfortunately it's under my father's name now. I tried to claim it in the research gate, but I cannot. But anyhow,
really? Okay.
Yeah, my father is a doctor, so.
Okay, you want me to help you? I have the number of the ORCID ID people. They have an office in Dubai. I can ask for their help to fix this problem. Yeah.
Later on, inshallah. Thanks, Ms. Amal.
Okay.
And I would like to thank every one of the participants to attending today. Just remind you, tomorrow is the last day. If you want to contact Ms. Amal, she will be happy to answer any question through her email, through her social media or mobile number. Thanks all, and
thank you.
All the best for all of you.
Thank you so much all for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your invitation, Imam University and the organizing committee. Thank you.
Welcome, and goodbye.
Good luck. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Wa alaikum salam.